Yay, here we go. And then we're going to get the recording here. Boom. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Inspire Life podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Mel with Inspire Life Chiropractic Center, and I'm honored today to be joined by my dear friend, my mentor, my coach, and honestly, my soul sister. She's played a huge role in my growth in my life. This is Jennifer Alley, and she's going to be sharing with us some things about how to really lead your life in alignment and how to access your soul's desires and how to actually live life in a way where maybe things feel like they're not working out for you, but really they are in the background. But to back up a little bit before we get into that, Jennifer, share with us, what are you all about in this world and what are you up to nowadays?
Well, nowadays I'm kind of all over the place. I'm in a little bit of a nomadic zone in my life. So I'm traveling a lot and I'm finding myself spending time in different cities, and I'm really loving it because of all the cool different people I get to meet and souls I get to connect with. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what I'm about in the world is really living in a heart-centered space of love and harmony that comes from a really grounded place of alignment with the truth of who you are, really living your soul's greatest expression in this lifetime.
That's beautiful.
Wherever you're at, at this particular juncture.
And I will share, as you will hear in our intro and outro of our podcast, this woman is up to big things. She's been up to big things for a while. And I have had the pleasure and honor of being able to actually go through one of her programs and courses, which is a group of us women who learn how to follow what feels good and lead our lives in alignment, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're just someone who's looking to access maybe different levels of energy and do what feels good in the world. She's your gal. So Jennifer, tell us, when it comes to this concept of following the feel good, some of our viewers might listen to like Abraham Hicks and doing what feels good. A lot of the times what people think is, well, if I do what feels good, then I feel lazy or I feel like I'm not doing anything. Can you share with us a little bit more about that concept and what you teach on and shift our perspective there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole idea of leading your life in alignment is about feeling good, because when you're feeling good, it's your emotional feedback system telling you that what you're choosing in that moment, whether it's to focus on mentally or to do physically, it is a match to what your soul desires at that particular time. Mm-hmm. And when you feel good, it just tells you, yes, you're in sync with your soul. Mm-hmm. When you feel bad, it tells you you're out of sync. And we're using feel good and feel bad in very general terms, and there's a whole range of experiences within that, but just for simplicity's sake, just follow what feels good. Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of, tell me the second part of your question again.
Well, I want to highlight something you said there, and then I'll continue into that. But what she's sharing, you guys, what I think about is that feedback loop of the nervous system. So think of it as when things don't feel good in your body or in your life, or you feel like you're working extra hard to try to make things happen, your body's going to tell you, your life is going to tell you. And that is an opportunity to really check in and say, okay, is this actually in alignment with myself and with my desires, which Jennifer is going to talk about. So how can we start to shift our perspective that actually following what feels good is not being lazy, but actually honoring your desires and what actually is fulfilling your mission or your soul or your purpose in life?
Yeah, that's so important. That's such a great question, Mel. I think this whole idea, this judgment about being lazy, comes from being in a culture and a society and really a world these days that overemphasizes productivity and getting things done as being valuable. Like the more you do and the more you produce, the better you are. When that's not wrong, bad, or, we need that too, but it's out of balance. Yeah. And we need to be more in balance with the beingness and being in rhythm with ourselves, being in rhythm with nature, being in rhythm with the people who are around us, which always starts from being in rhythm first and foremost with ourselves. And that's that piece about alignment. So if there's a particular time period in your day or in your week or in your month where things just feel slower, or you just don't feel like doing as much as you might at another particular time. That's something to actually listen to. Because also when you think about being a spiritual being in the human experience, part of why we're here is to grow and expand. And that requires an energetic contraction to move into an expansion. And a lot of times when you're feeling lazy, like you don't want to be doing something, that's a sign that you're in a contraction mode, and honoring that is super important in order to then allow an expansion that's going to come that just hasn't hit you yet. So when you're in the middle of criticizing yourself for feeling bad about being lazy, right, it's that in and of itself is also taking you out of alignment, because now your mental focus is on something that's not a match to what your soul actually needs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's a lot there to look at when we're talking about that particular angle of this subject.
Yeah, and you guys, this podcast, we could honestly make it be days and hours long. So we're going to share at the end how you can continue this conversation with Jennifer. But I think I love what you teach, and something that I've really discovered doing work with you is the ability to tune into like that contraction mode. Because I mean, a lot of you know me. You've heard my personal story. I'm the driver and the overachiever, and I will push through things when they feel uncomfortable. And after working with Jennifer and being around her, being able to actually follow what feels good, and I'm still just as productive and putting things out into the world, but it just feels so much better. It feels so much better in my body. I'm honoring who I am. And what I found is when you honor those moments of contraction, and for me, it's like I go for a walk, or I just rest, or I read, following the feel good. In the moment of expansion, I feel like I'm way more productive because I'm actually honoring it. And as she's going to talk about, I'm in alignment with my soul's desires and why I'm here in this planet. So tell me more, Jennifer, about this concept of resistance and trying to figure it out. Like we hear that word a lot, like, oh, I'm just figuring out my life and I'm busy all the time. Like, how does that actually not progress our growth?
Yeah, so when you're busy trying to figure something out and it feels effortful, you've actually kind of closed yourself off to getting higher wisdom and higher inspiration, because you've activated a resistance mode energetically in your system, because there's that efforting to it, that trying. And that actually, if we talk about it from a neurological perspective, it's going to activate more of the left hemisphere of the brain, which is all about sequence and order and action. And the left side of the brain doesn't know anything else that exists. And you have to include the right hemisphere, where you actually receive intuitive impulses and insights and inspirations. And that's where the soul is mostly working with you. So once you have disconnected from that by trying to effort your way, you've cut yourself off from a stream of information that will actually move you along your pathway faster and with less effort and more joy in the process. So that's that piece of it. And then I was going to say something else about that, but I'm going to actually let you comment, because you look like I'm seeing you nod over here, Dr. Mal.
Well, I love hearing like what's happening in your world and sharing examples. So what are some ways that our viewers and our listeners, like, how can they tap into more of that creative when they're feeling that, oh, I feel like I'm just trying, but I'm not getting anywhere. How can they, and again, this is probably a huge question that we can go into, but what are some things that they can kind of stop and pay attention to and do in that moment to access more of that right-sided, creative, open, expansive part of themselves?
Yeah. So a couple things. One of them is asking constructive questions, which I'm going to talk about for a second. But first, let me mention there's a really important concept when you're working with alignment and manifesting the things you want in your life, and it's this. The how is not up to you. The how is the domain of the universe. Your job is to identify what you desire, why you desire it, when you want it, and then it's okay to start thinking about like mulling over ideas, but it's not about getting fixated into trying to figure out how. Because there are way too many variables at play for you to ever be able to imagine how. In fact, if you think about it in your life right now, some of the coolest things that have happened to you, you probably could have never come up with.
Yeah.
in advance.
Yeah.
Right? It's sort of like you can't make this stuff up. Right? It just like comes to you. And when you're in a state of allowing, a state of flow, a state of alignment, things just show up. So that's a really important concept. And so as a good little memory tool for this one, I like to say, release the how and allow the wow.
I love when you say that.
Yeah.
That still rings in my consciousness when I'm feeling that moment of like contraction or trying to do things or force things. I'm like, wait a second, Mel. You know the vision, you know the outcome, you've committed to that vision, the how will figure itself out, and it's just that trusting. So you had mentioned too, constructive question, which has been huge, constructive questioning. That's been huge for me. So can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're in the middle of trying to figure things out and you're feeling stuck there, start asking questions, but questions in a very specific, constructive way that are open-ended. They're positively oriented. Right? A lot of people are asking negatively oriented questions, which is like, what's going to go wrong next? Why does this always happen to me? And it's usually a way of trying to sort of protect against something bad happening. But what it does is it puts you in a negative vibrational state, and then you just attract more things that match that. So constructive questions are going to be positively oriented, and they're going to be open-ended. And here's the catch. What most people get stuck on with this is they try to figure it out. And this is, again, where we have to come back to not figuring it out. So what I like to tell people is, think of the question. What's the question you would love to have the universe answer, right? Like, how easy could this be? How much fun can I have? What if I didn't have to figure it all out? Right? Like, these are open-ended questions. You can feel how light they are.
Yeah.
Right? And they just shift your energy, and then they activate the part of the brain that counteracts or counterbalances that figure it out part. And you really open yourself up then to the insights and the creativity that already wants to flow through you.
Yes. I love that, Jennifer. And even when hearing you, those are questions that I like to use too, in the morning or the evening, but even hearing you ask that, I'm just curious, like, if you guys want to share in the comments, if you're watching on YouTube, like, how does that make you feel when you ask those like questions, how easy can this be, or how fun can this be, and not figuring it out, but just trusting this. I know when I'm in my body, I feel this kind of resistance and tension kind of just dissolve. I mean, even your whole physiology changes. And I'll echo what Jennifer's saying. When you're able to construct these questions, you're able to fire different neurons. And the more that you practice this, you guys, and the more that you do it, the easier it becomes to actually access even different questions within that realm, and your brain starts to find it. Your brain starts to attract it in your actual physical reality. The how is figuring itself out. The universe is supporting you, or source is supporting you, because your brain is starting to change, your perception is starting to change. So I love that.
Yeah, and just to build on what you're saying, Dr. Mel, is that as your perception is changing, you're actually raising your vibration to close the gap between your human functioning and your soul's essence, which is vibrating at a higher rate. And so as you close that gap, you sync up even more, and you really come into powerful alignment with your soul, which is the powerhouse behind everything that's unfolding in your human experience. So the more you're in alignment, the better things flow, the faster manifestations come, the more things work out for you, and you didn't have to effort for it.
You're the vessel.
You're the vessel. Yeah,
become the
great way to
vessel.
say it.
Yeah. So I want to build on that too. When it comes to this concept of alignment, something that I really love that you teach is it's not about just sitting around and doing nothing. Because I think a lot of people get confused when they talk about the law of attraction and getting into vibration and doing what feels good. It doesn't mean that you're never taking action. What I love that you teach is it's getting into alignment and then. Following the feel good and then. Because yes, you can sit on your couch and like do all these things we talk about, but also when you feel that beautiful inspired impulse, that's when you take action. That's when you're in alignment and you're taking action, things flow like 10x style. So my friends, it's not about you're not doing anything, it's the blending of getting into alignment, feeling good, and taking action as well, because you have gifts and beautiful things that are meant to be brought into this world. And we're going to talk a little bit about manifestation and how you're always manifesting all the time. But do you have anything more to comment on that?
Yeah, no, the action piece is super important, and I'm glad that you brought that up because that is one of the foundations of the alignment work that I teach is follow what feels good, but really get into alignment and then. Because once you're in alignment, the action is going to come a lot more naturally. It's going to feel good. If you're out of alignment, there might be certain things that you want to do, but maybe you can't like get yourself motivated to do it or something like that, and it feels effortful and can introduce like struggle and frustration. Once you're in alignment, you line up your energies with the outcomes that you want, and then the action feels effortless. But the one thing that I'll say is that sometimes there's a gestation period.
Yes.
Where when we're talking about the manifestation process, things start with the desire that comes from the soul, and then the soul inspires you through the thoughts that you have in your brain thinking mind. When you think a thought long enough and start to build a mental model of it, eventually it's going to translate to an emotional state. And that emotional state is the motivation that then moves you into action.
Yes.
So you can always be thinking positively or negatively, which we call it that because of how it feels.
Right.
Right? And so anything that's positive, it feels good, it's a match to your soul's desires.
Yeah.
Anything that's negative feels bad, it's not a match. But a lot of times people get stuck taking actions that are not a match to their soul's desires. They're pushing themselves into it because they think they're supposed to, or that's what they learned, or they can't see other options in that moment.
Yes.
And I think that's where people get a lot of times stuck spinning their wheels. So you have to take action in your life.
Yes.
Your soul is here to be expressed through you in your human experience, and it requires your human partnership with that, right? Like you got to be on board.
Yes.
And because you're the one taking the action.
You're the vessel.
You're the vessel. Your soul can't, I would like to say, your soul can't eat bagels.
Dang it.
Right? Like without the human experience, right?
Yeah.
Like there are so many things your soul can't do, can't enjoy without your physicality. So of course you have to take action, but you want to take action from an aligned and inspired state, because that's what's really going to fulfill your soul's desires and give you the best outcomes, and you're really going to enjoy the journey that way.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned that right at the end, Jennifer, is enjoying the journey and doing what is fulfilling to you and not trying to mimic me or not trying to mimic Jennifer, because, we have very similar desires for what we desire for humanity, and at the same time, it looks different from time to time. So making sure that you're connecting with yourself in that way and not trying to do the shoulds of what the culture says or try to mimic other people. You want to connect to yourself and your energy. So you mentioned something too, Jennifer, when it comes to the gestational period, taking action and seeing that fruition. So let's talk a little bit to wrap up about manifestation, because that's been a huge topic. I think more and more people are talking about law of attraction and manifestation and how we want to manifest our desires. But what about this notion of when things manifest in our life that we don't want? I know a lot of people that I work with will say, well, I didn't want this in my life, or if manifestation works, why is this happening to me? Can you speak more to that?
Absolutely. So, this is a big topic. We could probably spend a few days on this one too.
Yes.
But just very succinctly, you're manifesting in your life all the time. Anything that's happening in your experience is something that on some level you have attracted to you and you have manifested into the external reality. Now, that is not to place blame when bad things happen, because there are a couple different aspects to this. One of them is a concept called contrast, which means that in order to grow and expand as spiritual beings in the human experience, we have to have a contextual framework to work with. And contrast provides that context of things you don't like. You can't know things that you do like if you don't know what you don't like. You can't know hot without cold. You can't know up without down.
Yep.
Right? So because we live in a realm of duality, we always have to have both.
Absolutely.
So contrast is always part of the game. Now, when we're talking about manifestations, what we really want is to manifest things that are a match to our soul's desires. And when you're in alignment, the channel of energy flowing from your soul's desires into your human manifestation is open.
Yes.
When you're out of alignment, it's like that faucet gets closed off.
Yes.
And you're not connected to the energy that already wants to come through you.
That makes me think, just to play on that, for those of you who know, I'm a chiropractor, and so when Jennifer talks about this, my brain is like, yep, it's just like the brain sending signals down the spinal cord, and when there's interference, like that flow wants to happen, but if the spine is out of alignment, it's dimmed. It's dimmed. It's not flowing at its peak capacity. So anyway, I love painting that picture when you speak about that.
Yeah, well, because it's how energy works.
Exactly.
And energy works consistently the same way throughout the universe.
Physics. It's physics.
Yeah, it's physics. And then we have physics on the sort of manifestational earth plane level, and then you've got the quantum level of physics. And anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. So for the manifestation process of bringing into your reality what you really desire, it comes through alignment. I always like to say alignment is a one-stop shop for everything that you desire in your life.
It's true.
And it is something that's kind of like ebbing and flowing throughout the day. It's not like you get into alignment and then you're done. It's a constant process. It's a lifestyle.
It's a practice. Yeah. And I was going to mention that earlier, and of course you read my mind, because that's what happens when you're in alignment. I love, again, just always sharing with people everything that we talk about on our podcast. When you tune into Jennifer's work on her YouTube page and her social media, everything is a process. Everything is a practice. And guess what? It doesn't end until you leave this earth plane. And wherever we transcend to, whatever you believe, it still doesn't stop. So we want you all to know that we're with you in this journey, and we're with you in empowering you, in that we're putting this at play every single day. You know, getting into alignment is a practice in itself. And when you find yourself out of alignment, noticing that contrast is actually part of learning how to get back into alignment. So it's not just, again, as you said, black and white. It's this whole spectrum. And I love that. So Jennifer, to wrap up, I know we talked about a lot, and we could go on and on and on, but how can we, one, keep up with you, Jennifer Alley in the Galaxy, and how can our viewers and listeners further this conversation and doing this work with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on jenniferalley.com, and it's ALLY. I like to say your ally in alignment.
So creative. Yes. I love that.
Yeah, and there's a story behind that too.
Yes.
So Jennifer Alley on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You can follow me any of those places. You can also see jenniferalley.com. You can see there's a program that I have called Lead in Alignment, which gives you all of the foundational components that you need to really learn how to lead your whole life now and for the rest of your life in alignment with your soul's greater path, your soul's wisdom, your soul's agenda, and really be in the joy of the journey.
And where can they find that?
jenniferalley.com.
Beautiful.
That's it.
I'll toot her horn a little bit because she's so humble and modest. I had the honor of doing her Women on the Rise program earlier this year through, holidays into the spring, and there was a group of us women, and just being able to be in that energy and learn these concepts week after week after week. I mean, I still am able to put these things into practice, especially being a business owner and soon to be wife and just a human being. It's amazing, my friends. So I highly encourage you to hop on over to jenniferalley.com. I will include that in the show notes on our Spotify. And thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Mel.
She came from New York. This woman is...
I flew in for this podcast.
Kind of.
Yeah, sort of. But I can't wait to connect with you guys. And thank you so much for having me, Dr. Mel.
You bet. So if you guys enjoyed this, of course, like and subscribe. Head on over to her page. Check out Jennifer Alley's work, and I will include that in the show notes. And anything else you want to leave our viewers and listeners with?
Yeah, just... start on your alignment journey, however it resonates for you, whether that's working with me or someone else who's teaching alignment, because at the end of the day, what's most important is that everyone in the world start on an alignment journey at the juncture that's right for them. And if this is reaching you at this particular time, my guess is you're in a zone where if you're not already on an alignment pathway, it's becoming available to you.
Yes.
So follow whatever that impulse is to you.
Right here, right now. A world in alignment, my friends, sounds like a great world to me.
Yeah.
So we appreciate you all. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And as always, keep inspiring. Bye.
Ciao. Bye.